Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the VIDYA family, I welcome you to the VIDYA Knowledge Series webinar on wellness. VIDYA, after its 34 years of experience, stands as one of India's oldest long-standing NGOs since independence and goes by the motto, Educate, Empower, Transform. Founded in 1985 with Miss Rashmi Misra's desire to personally teach 5 unschooled girls at home on the campus of IIT Delhi, it turned out to be the start of a social movement. Working in the domain of education, skill development, and women empowerment, Vidya now runs 78 projects out of 5 metros in India, Delhi, Gurgaon, Mumbai, Bangalore, and Pune, and has impacted over 3.75 lakh children, youth, and women. I'm delighted to welcome our speaker for today, Mr. Manish Pole. Him and his wife are the founders of Total Yoga. Manish has lived and trained with Himalayan yoga master Bharat Thakur from 2003 to 2010, eventually working as the CEO of Artistic Yoga. He has taught yoga to some of India's most famous entertainers, business leaders, and politicians, including Anoushka Shankar, Vinod, Khanna, and Sunil, Bharti, Mittal. Through his company, Total Yoga, he has been Vidya's yoga and wellness partner for 4 years as a yoga teacher to our women at Vidya Bangalore. He has raised funds to sponsor 10 children of the Vidya school in Gurgaon. Now, before we go over to Manish, I'd like to remind you all to please ask your questions in the Q&A section rather than in the chat box. Our guest will be taking questions at the end of his talk. Over to you, Manish.
Namaste, and very, very grateful for that very warm introduction. I look forward to spending the best part of the next half an hour in a way that makes it effective for all of you, as well as for me. So to get the right intention, let's spend a minute just sitting in silence. So we've got this tech interface that's happening, but let's just forget about that. And just imagine that we are all sitting in a living room together, sitting straight, taking 3 deep breaths as we close our eyes. So that the next 45 minutes of all our lives can be meaningful in the study of yoga and meditation for day-to-day life. With that intent in mind, let's begin. Namaste once again. In times like this, where the pandemic has meant that we've all come back to basics, what people across the globe are experiencing is that essentially all you have is your health. We thought we had many other things, but eventually it's come back to survival, and it's come back to health. Without this health, it doesn't matter what riches you may have, what dreams you may have. None of that is of much relevance if you don't have health. So this is a wake-up call for everybody in all the world and in generations that are young, middle-aged, and old, that health is all that you have. For us to tackle this current scenario, it's important to understand a couple of things. One is that everything in life is energy. If I have a good amount of energy, only then can I be healthy. If I'm healthy, I become a pillar for my family. If I'm not healthy, the word is not burden, but I become somebody that my family needs to take care of. They themselves are struggling to cope with their own life, and now they need to take time out to support me. They will do it out of love and affection, but it's up to me to take care of my health so that I don't trouble anybody else. Similarly, if I can be healthy, I become a support for my entire community. Now, I can be a compassionate human being, but no compassion happens when I'm unhealthy. Is that right? When I have a migraine, I cannot really be compassionate. So it's important for me to be extremely healthy, vibrant, and energetic. Without this, all my intent of wanting to be of help to people just remains an intent. I have an intent, but I need to train my body and mind to accomplish that goal. Otherwise, I'll have an unsatisfied life. Energy is absolutely everything. My energy will dictate the quality of my relationships. Right? Energy doesn't lie. You can say whatever you want, you can do whatever you want, but people know your intent just with your energy. So you cannot but be true to the way you are as a person energetically. The energy will also mean that I can live a life of abundance, even though there are certain protocols that I need to follow in these times. A lot of people are complaining that they cannot go to their favorite restaurant, when there are people who have absolutely no access to food even. So it's very important in life to have this semblance of balance and perspective. The things that we miss sometimes are so minuscule, and it's important for us to understand that we were living in heightened states of luxury. Nobody in the history of our planet has had this much luxury ever. So not being able to go to a movie or not being able to go to a restaurant or some such thing is not such a big deal. Come on, friends. We've gone through much worse in life. Generations before us have gone through much worse. Let's put the whole thing in perspective. This is not a great trauma. This is just a time to recalibrate how we are and who we are. That was the first point I wanted to make, that energy is absolutely everything. So it's very important for us to know how to manage and work with energy. The word that we use in Sanskrit or in India is prana. The closest word to prana would be livingness. There's a certain livingness in the food, in the air, in a person. So it's up to us to choose wisely. When it comes to prana, it's very important that you take care of your well-being through some basic yoga practices. Even if you were to do Surya Namaskar, and everybody in this webinar obviously has had access to do Surya Namaskar. If there's anybody here who's never seen a Surya Namaskar, you can definitely see that on YouTube. Surya Namaskar is a simple 10-step exercise that will align your body rhythm to that of the solar system itself. Now, this is very important because the sun is the main source of energy for us. If you're not waking up with the sun, if you're not finishing your meals before the sun goes down, you're not in the solar cycle of the planet. And most animals are in that cycle. When you come out of that cycle, you will lack in energy. When you lack in energy, it will affect the quality of your relationships. It will affect the quality of your work. It will affect the quality of your mood, your behavior. You will be unnecessarily crabby with people. When if you're high on energy, you'll be more loving and passionate towards people. Surya Namaskar. Pranayama. Simple pranayama. So let's make this session one where we also learn and do practices together. I'm going to take you through a simple pranayama technique. Just sit absolutely straight. And I'm going to challenge you to count down 10 slow breaths without losing track of your count. Most people will start 10, breathe in, breathe out, 9, 8. By the time they come to 8 or 7, the mind's already at some other place. My challenge to you is to see whether you can continue to count from 10 to 0. Let's try that together with your eyes closed. Inhale 10. Hold your breath. Exhale 10. Inhale 9. Hold. Exhale 9. Inhale 8. Exhale 8. Continue counting 7 breaths to 0. This is the first challenge that we're doing together today.
That's 3 breaths. Count with 2 if you want to post it. You'd like to have yourself post that. So which is this more one?
The last 3 breaths. Fantastic. So we've learned a simple breathing pranayama technique that today we call as mindful breathing. Mindfulness is all the rage globally. A simple technique like this is categorized as a mindfulness technique. There's another pranayama technique that I'd like to share with you, and I'll share with you a little later, where we balance the physical and the mental energy. Hatha balance, the sun and the moon. So we're looking at pranayama. Also, a point or two about food. Now, food and food choices, it's not rocket science. No nutritionist should need to tell you what to eat. Taking responsibility for your life is the subject of yoga. If you take complete responsibility, you will be very clear as to what it is you want to eat. What is the food that gives you the most energy? Suppose you eat a food and it's so difficult for you to digest that you drain all your energy, you should not be eating that. Don't follow any diets that are generic. Make the effort to find out what suits you the best. This is a little thing about food. For some people, 3 meals a day is fine. Some people need to snack in between. Some people, 2 meals a day, sometimes 1 meal a day is also fine. Just see what it is that suits you best. You can do a simple test to find out your Ayurveda body type, your dosha. For example, I'm a Vata Pitta. Therefore, I eat 3 meals a day and I don't eat too much so that I can manage my digestion. Like that, you choose for yourself. So we've talked about yoga, Surya Namaskar. We've talked about pranayama. We've talked about food. So this ensures that your energy is best utilized. But for you to have a successful life, you need to have a sankalp. A sankalp is a long-term resolution. Studies routinely show that people who have short-term goals and accomplish it are the most happy people. So for the month of May, take on a sankalp. Could be anything, learn a new skill set. Since all of you come from a learning environment, increasingly we find that if you're not learning something new, you're dying. People at any age, even elderly people, they love to learn. Middle-aged people, we love to learn. Children love to learn. Learning is what makes us come alive. If you feel that there is not much of learning, then you find that there's a lot of stagnation in life. So learning is an essential part of that. For you to learn, you need to have a resolve. Otherwise, we are creatures of habit. So what we do today is exactly what we did yesterday and what we'll do tomorrow. For most people, you can accurately predict what they're going to be doing next Monday, right? Not, of course, because of the corona, but generally speaking, Our patterns are so fixed that it requires some change now and then, and that change will only happen if you have a resolve, a sankalp. We're hearing reports of people suffering domestic violence, suffering abusive relationships, and so on during coronavirus, during these COVID times. It's very important for people to have something to work towards. When you're on a journey, when you know where you're headed, the small things in life don't trouble or bug you. If you don't know where you're headed, you're in a confused state, any small thing will irritate you. Today I cannot go out, today I cannot do this, I cannot go to work. Small things start to irritate you rather than if you have a goal. If it was your resolve that by the end of May or by the end of the COVID lockdown, you can sit for 20 minutes in meditation, or you can learn Spanish, or you can lose a couple of kilos, whatever it may be. But having that resolve will ensure that you can keep growing, and then you're not bugged by the small things. You have a path. A traveler, and we are all travelers in life, is an explorer, but he has a map. He may go around the world, but he knows where he wants to go. Where he wants to go can keep changing. But not knowing at all, or not having any idea at all, sometimes makes you get lost unnecessarily so. To be lost while moving in a particular direction is fine. To be lost not knowing anything at all is irresponsible. So having a sankalp is very important. Nature has given us this life, has given me 24 hours today to express life. Me not trying to move in the direction that makes me happy is irresponsible. And then I blame everything around me when I myself am not making the effort to know where I want to go. That's a little bit about Sankalp. We spoke also about energy. I'd like to sort of teach you one more pranayama technique. And for that, I would require you to make your right hand like this. The first two fingers have gone in. The ring and little finger are out. Together, we're going to be doing Anulom Vilom Pranayama. So block one nostril, block the right nostril. Without any sound, breathe in through the left nostril. Close both your nostrils. Hold the breath inside. Breathe out through the right nostril. Inhale through the right. Close nostrils. Exhale through the left. Let's just do one more round together. So what you're doing is you're breathing in from one side, holding both inside, breathing out through the other, and then reverse. Breathe in to the left. Close nostrils. Breathe out to the right. Breathe in to the right. Close nostrils. Breathe out to the left. Okay, try that one last time. Breathe in to the left. This time, close your nostrils for double the inhalation time. Breathe out to the right for double the inhalation time. Breathe in, right, for count of 1. Close for double the time. That's count of 2. Exhale left for a count of 2. This is Anulom Vilom Pranayama or Nadi Shodhana. This is fundamental pranayama that balances the physical energy and the mental energy. Hatha Yoga. I saw a question just now. Somebody asked, Sri Hari asked, how is pranayama different from Vipassana? Vipassana is a specific meditation first described by the Buddha, popularized by S.N. Goenka. Pranayama is the vast subject of enhancing the prana in you. Prana, livingness, ayama, expansion. It's a set of breathing exercises. Some of these breathing exercises are also utilized in Vipassana. Vipassana, specific meditation, pranayama, the science of enhancing livingness of prana. Since somebody asked me a question, if there are other questions, you can start to ask. But in the meantime, what I'd like to share is that it's very, very important, A, for you to manage your prana, manage the energy that you have within you. That will dictate the quality of your life. If you feel that your life is stuck, if the relationships are not happening the way you'd like them to be, you cannot go and change everybody. You cannot go try and change your mother. You cannot go and try and change your colleagues. You cannot go and try and change everybody. There's only one thing you can change: yourself. And how do you change yourself? One, completely work on relaxation. When a person is relaxed, they're natural. When they're not relaxed, they're compulsive. You cannot transform a person. You cannot transform yourself. What you can do is you can relax yourself. When you relax, you come into your natural state, which is the ideal for you and for those around you. When that happens, a transformation happens within you. When that happens, every relationship gets sorted. People are responding to the frequency of your vibration. You can change your vibration and immediately people's response will change. Somebody who's not spoken to you for 10 years will suddenly start speaking again because you have changed, you have transformed. It's very important. It's more important than sending a man to the moon. You can go to the moon and back, but if you've not understood how you can transform yourself, then you're missing the point. The science of inner well-being, which is really, really significant. And the second point we discussed was having a long-term vision for yourself. I'd just like to finish with this point. Today, neuroscience is showing us, in the labs we are able to see, there's no such thing called free will. Suppose you offer me a piece of cake. I'm not really deciding at that point whether I want to eat it or no. The last 500 times I have said yes, there's a neuronal pathway in my mind, in my brain, I will say yes. We thought we had free will, but it's actually just a habit of the brain. Now, what is my role in my own life if everything is just a neuronal pathway? Here's the interesting thing. Suppose I take a sankalp, a resolve to be healthy, for example, and then you offer me a piece of cake. Because my long-term vision is to be healthy, I may say no. So my day-to-day behavior gets altered by my long-term resolve. Without the long-term resolve, I just repeat daily what I do. Yesterday, today, tomorrow. I hope that's clear for all. The reason Sankalp is important, it makes you the CEO of your own life. Otherwise, you're just repeating or not. That, friends, is what I wanted to share with all of you. I would like you to incorporate Surya Namaskar into your daily life. Not to lose weight, not to get flexible. No, that will all happen for sure. But essentially, to just tune yourself with the rhythm of life. Pranayama, the two things we did, one is mindful breathing that can be used as a meditation. If you're comfortable, 11 to 0, and it may take a few months. You can then go 27 to 0, 99 to 0. That simple thing can become a meditation. Anulom Vilom Pranayama You can take that up to 27 rounds or 108 rounds, depending on how much time and inclination you have for the subject of studying yourself. And please look at the food that you eat. You shouldn't be getting tired. All of us are too young to be getting tired. We should be taking care of our food. Your relationships will get sorted. Your family relationships, your work relationships, once your energy changes. Once you get into the classroom to teach people, if you don't have the right energy, you may know your subject, but that's not enough. People are not responding to what you're saying. They're responding to your body language. They're responding to your voice. They're responding to the intent that you bring. Every day, if you walk into the class with the intent of educating, people can see that. Whereas if you're going to do a job, you can see that. Energy, intent, very important. On that note, I'll stop talking and I'll throw this open to all of you. If you've got questions for me, please go ahead and ask. Let's use our time. We've got 20 more minutes. Let's use that effectively to learn.
Hello, Manish. So we have a question, and the question, what is the perfect meditation technique? What is the process of meditation, please?
So the question itself, let's try and understand it. Meditation has no technique. The technique that the person is asking is a relaxation technique or a mindfulness technique. Meditation happens when you have set your life in order, when you have set the house in order, when your body, mind, breath is working in sync, one. When your purpose of life is sorted, you know what the purpose is, then any and everything you do becomes meditation. In classical yoga, meditation happens when you have sorted out your interactions with people, your interactions with yourself, your body, mind, and breath, and your focus is so long. If you can stay focused on a subject for 15, 20, 45 minutes, we call it concentration. If you can stay focused on a subject for 5, 6 hours, we call it meditation. So meditation technique, what the person is asking is perhaps a 15, 20-minute guided meditation technique. We don't call that as meditation in classical yoga. And I would like you to aspire higher. Therefore, train your focus. The fundamental idea is that focus is natural. What is stopping me from focusing right now? Some backache. Let me sort out the backache. Some mental trauma, somebody told me something 20 years ago. Let me sort that out. When all this gets sorted, I will have focus, and that focus becomes meditation. So whatever technique you like, so just to present, whatever technique the person likes can do. You can sit and listen to music, focus on it. You can sit and watch the sunrise, anything. Essentially, you train your focus daily.
So this is related to my next question, which was about how can one practice, or what kind of practices can one engage in when they are limited by space or by resources? Now, as you know, and you have dealt so much with the Vidya women, most of them may not even have a yoga mat. Many people who are living in apartment buildings probably have access only to a balcony, if that. What would you recommend to people who are living in these small spaces or with very less resources? What kind of practices can they do to stay sane and mentally happy during this time?
Please remember, whatever is the size of a person's house, it's bigger than a yogi's cave. If those people in that small 6x6 are managing their health and well-being to genius levels, we have no excuses. A balcony is plenty space. No yoga mat, no big deal. We all have a towel, more than enough. You don't need any resources. You just need to know how to play with your body and how to focus your mind. Once you learn this, you don't need to pay anybody for this. You don't need any equipment. You just play with the body and focus the mind. That's all is required.
Going back to a question on meditation, What happens when a person who's meditating tends to lose focus? Many of us who are novices, we're just starting to do this practice. We all tend to be very lost in our ways. Our mind wavers. What can you recommend will help us to stay in focus as we practice meditation, please?
Two things. One, your mind has been running for the last 30, 40, 50 years. Suddenly it's not going to stop because you want to do meditation today. It's been in a loop for so many years. So give it some time, give it some patience. It will come into sync. Second, how do you focus it? In classical yoga, we focus on nada, sound. Just focus on a sound. It can be Om. Om is a very powerful sound. And eventually, you'll just start to hear a little bit more silence within. The gap between thoughts will become bigger. And this is going to happen if you get the right posture to sit, if you get the right body language. Slowly, you'll begin to find there's something to hear inside. It's a real miracle that there's so much sound, so much happening within our body, and yet we can't hear or we're not attuned to that because the ears are listening out. Once it starts to listen inside, you can hear your breath, you can hear your heartbeat. You'll have things to listen and focus on.
Ah, beautiful, wonderful. Actually, that helps us all a lot. Many questions were related to how do we stay focused. Now, another thing I wanted to ask you, if you have a severe disease, perhaps like Parkinson's, how would you recommend can the person meditate, use yoga, any of your techniques? What can such a person do who is severely disabled or crippled by their physical disabilities? What can they possibly do? I know you mentioned pranayama.
They can do pranayama, they can do yoga nidra, they can do surya namaskar. Meditation is about taking somebody from 0 to +1.
Yes.
Yeah. Going from -1 to 0 is the art of asana. It's the art of pranayama. Meditation happens when you're at peak. When you've taken care of body, mind, you're at peak performance, meditation begins to happen. A person who's not at peak performance can do relaxation, like yoga nidra.
Can pranayama help to also delay depression or take away depression?
So generally, when a person is going through depression, they're lacking in the fire element. So they need to do active work, not pranayama. They shouldn't sit with the eyes closed. They should go dancing or at home. They should do a lot of surya namaskars. They should activate the physical activity in them. Closed eyes happens when you're tremendously happy. When you're not happy, if you close your eyes, it will become even worse. So therefore, for depressed people, we don't recommend pranayama. We don't recommend meditation. Pranayama can be done, energizing pranayama. Vastrika, that's forceful inhalation and exhalation. All those things that energize, Surya Namaskars, you've got to energize that person.
Well, thank you, Manish. One more question I had was about how can a teacher, for example, and as you know, we're focused on young children who probably are not as privileged, or anybody for that matter, how can a teacher inculcate the art of meditation, the art of mindfulness, the art of mental well-being, so to speak, in a child who is fairly young, maybe primary school, maybe preschool? What are the habits that we can inculcate in children at that age so that they grow to be wholesome individuals?
Children are very observant. What you tell them is not so important, but the way you are, they are picking signs because they're not so distracted. So if you go into the room and you're fidgeting around too much, they immediately know you're not calm, not meditative, not mindful. So you have to be a very meditative human being if you want to create that impact on the children. You have to do some preparation before you enter that class. You being able to be still there when the children are a little bit, children like to test you. They will pull some jokes, they will do something or the other. They want to see what are the boundaries with you. Even adults do that, children even more so. If none of that shakes you, and you can still be composed at a deep level, you're setting an example for them, which they may not even have in their own house. Ideally, they should see this in their mother and father. They may be seeing that in you as a teacher. This will impact them later on in life also, because they may not have the articulation today, but it's deeply embedded and they know that they want to be that calm person.
Beautiful. Can I ask you this? I know you've been associated with Vidya for at least the past 4 years, and so many women from from less privileged backgrounds have greatly benefited from your intervention in their lives. Can you tell us what your experience was? What kind of people did you find them to be? How were you able to help them? And how did they manage to benefit from your interaction and your helping them out, actually? What was your experience with Vidya's women and children?
So the first thing that I noticed is that a lot of people were averse to sort of, or they were a bit shy. They were not very comfortable with a male teacher. Therefore, I asked Neetu to take over the classes. That was an easier connect to be made. The second thing we noticed is that people are people. They are, it doesn't matter from what situations people come. They still smile, laugh, joke, have fun. And after the first 5 minutes, people are people.
Wonderful. I have one question regarding women doing yoga during menstruation. Should one practice yoga at that time? Or what should you refrain from doing? If anything at all, what should you refrain from doing in terms of exercise, meditation, pranayama, and yoga while a woman is menstruating?
The first 2 days, it's better to avoid asanas, Surya Namaskar, anything eating. After that 3, 4, 5th day, you can do asanas. You avoid the inverted postures, the shoulder stand, the head stand, the ab exercises. You can do pranayama and meditation.
Okay. You mentioned that good food, clean mind, restful state are all important for one's well-being during this pandemic. Some people are suffering from lack of being able to sleep. They're probably losing their jobs. They've got all kinds of problems, lots on their mind. Do you have anything specific that could help one sleep a lot better? It's ironic that in this time when we have all the time in the world to sleep and we don't really have to adhere to any kind of a schedule, yet people find that they are having difficulty sleeping. Any tips, any recommendations that you have?
The technique would be yoga nidra. The practice would be doing physical work, Surya Namaskars, doing physical work through the day so you tire. But the fundamental idea that needs to be understood is a lot of us have a wrong idea of sleep. We feel that sleep is something you do at the end of a day's work, and then you get up the next day and start working again. But in reality, activity happens in the space of restfulness. Yeah? There is restfulness, and then there are spurts of activity. Right? There is time, and then there is eons of sort of creation and destruction, and it goes back into timelessness. Similarly, we have restfulness, and in between that, through the day we work, then we go back to restfulness. If you understand it like that, you'll understand that restfulness is your true nature. It is not the thing you do when you're finished activity. It is your true nature. The activity happens to be superimposed on the restfulness. Once you get this right, sleep will never be something that you do last priority.
Do you have anything you can share? One more question I've got. I know we're short on time, but I know one more question we have. How do we get to know what our body type is? The Pitta, the Vata, and the Kapha. How does one get to know what kind of body type you have?
I would suggest consulting an Ayurvedic doctor or going to a website where they'll ask about 30-35 questions. But generally speaking, Vata is wind energy. Yeah, it's what takes the nutrients into the cell. Pitta is what happens with metabolism in the cell. Kapha is the maintenance of the structure of the cell and lubrication. So Vata person is a person with a very active mind, fast thinking, fast talking, fast walking. It gets fatigued fast, quick to absorb ideas, but forgets fast. That's the wind energy. So the food, the person will have low levels of fire in them. Therefore, they like to eat warm foods. They'll be lean, dry hair, dry skin. Pitta are fiery people, very fiery. At a drop of a hat, they lose their temper. Very nice people, but when it becomes too much, they lose their temper very quickly. They need to have foods that are sort of cooling, salads and so on and so forth. Kapha are people who are very loving, calm, relaxed. Yeah. Now, when a Vata person who's creative and flexible is out of balance, he becomes nervous and anxious. When a Pitta person who has sharp understanding, usually, he becomes out of balance. He becomes angry, jealous, hatred. Kapha person is generally loving, forgiving. When he goes out of balance, it's attachment, greed, envy. You have to stay true to your balance.
Well, thank you so much for that. I know a lot of questions are coming in about sleep and depression, and I see that you have addressed a lot of them. I have, the last question is going to be completely loaded.
Sure.
One question is, what is the best time to practice yoga and pranayama? Are there any special last sort of tips that are exercises? First of all, if you can tell me what is the best time, is there a best time to practice yoga and pranayama during the day? Surya Namaskar or anything else?
Best would be 4 to 6 a.m. And the maximum melatonin, which is very important for the purpose of meditation. So between 4 to 6 a.m. is the ideal time, which means you got to sleep by about 9, so that you're waking up by about 3:34. That's the ideal. Whether you look at Indian classical musicians, they're all trying to work at that time.
Yeah.
If you can't do that time, as early as possible is best. By 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, the world is full of, people are thinking ideas, you're disturbed, distracted. Ideally 4 to 6. If you can't do that, then evening at sunset.
So it is possible to do it once again in the evening at sunset. Do you think that would also help?
It's helpful, but you're not always in control of your evenings. Whereas in the morning, you can definitely do it before your day starts.
That is correct, yes. So the best thing is to establish it. Do you have any last minute, any exercises that you can share with us that one can take away? Your final takeaway, giveaway from this talk. A few exercises that one can easily practice at home or wherever they are. Perhaps something to keep your endurance or strength going. Perhaps a little bit to keep your mind calm. A few typical exercises that you think would be an ideal summarizing of the workout, please. Something that we can take away.
As much as possible, keep your spine straight spine. As much as possible, breathe slow, so straight, slow, and as much as possible, smile. It's not possible to be lost in your own thoughts when you're smiling. The way the face is designed, as soon as you smile, you're forced to be present. So straight spine, slow breathing, smiling, and practice gratitude. It's impossible for the sympathetic nervous system to have fight, flight, or fright response when you're in a state of gratitude. Just be thankful.
Thank you. I think we should really be grateful for all that we have today. Even in the worst of times, we can always find something. And I agree with you. Gratitude practice is one of those that will actually give you a positive mindset and give you a purpose. If you can't at least do something about yourself, try to help somebody else out. You've done so much for Vidya. You've been helping us out always, and I can see how calm and collected, and we've learned so much from you today. So thank you so much, Manish, for everything. You've been
Thank you so
splendid.
much.
We really look forward to having more such talks with you again. And this being such a trying time for most people, I think they're struggling with sleep and ability to stay well during a possible job loss and everything. I think these few practices that you have told us about, I think are going to carry us very long forward. So thank you so very much for spending this time with us.
Thank you. Thanks for
And
having me.
I wanted to thank all our viewers for joining in. It has been a wonderful session. Manish has been educating us on the practices that we need to keep in mind no matter where life takes us. So I thank you for that. And we also wanted to let you know that next Friday, we have our webinar on leadership. That's going to be held on May 22nd. We have John C. George, who is a leadership coach, and he will address the topic of how one can create a reinventing mindset within the team. We look forward to seeing you again next Friday, 22nd, for another exciting webinar, which is a part of the Vidya Knowledge series. I'm Vandana Kumar, treasurer of Vidya. I'm signing off right now. Thank you so much. We hope to see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manish.
Thank you.